There's a version of you, not the one everyone sees. Not the one scrolling through social media, chasing deadlines, or caught in the noise of everyday chaos. But the one sitting patiently, quietly waiting for you to pause, to listen, to evolve. You see, becoming your best self is not a race. It's a journey, a divine unfolding. It's not about chasing perfection. It's about discovering authenticity. But here's the catch. Your best self is not lost. It's not hiding behind mountains or buried under failures. It's right there within you. But like a lamp covered in dust, it needs a little cleaning. The world teaches us to keep upgrading our phones, wardrobes, even cars. But when was the last time you upgraded your mindset? When did you sit with yourself and ask her, am I growing or am I just aging? We eat 3 meals a day, but how often do we feed our character, nourish our purpose, or hydrate our soul? Let's stop treating growth like a weekend project, hours to be in You don't become your best self in a single day, but you can decide today to take the first step. Just like the sun doesn't compete with the moon, it simply shines. Your best self doesn't need comparison. It just needs permission. Permission from you. So, don't keep your best self waiting too long, because the world needs it. You need it. And life becomes meaningful only when we start walking toward it. There is a version of you that is already complete. It's just buried under layers of doubt, fear, and distraction. From the moment we are born, we are not blank slates. We are seeds that carry potential, purpose, values, and a natural inclination toward growth. But as life progresses, the purity of that seed often gets covered, not because we are broken, but because the world throws dust, expectations from society, opinions from others, failures that bruise our self-esteem, and fears that shrink our courage. Think about it. A diamond doesn't lose its value when it's buried underground. It just needs to be discovered, cleaned, and refined. Similarly, the best version of you is already there, waiting beneath all the roles you've been forced to play, beneath the masks you've had to wear, and beneath the fears you've silently carried. We begin to believe that we need to become something entirely different to be worthy. But in truth, we don't need to become someone else. We need to return to who we are. Your best self isn't built by chasing everything outside It's revealed by peeling back everything that isn't you. Self-doubt is like fog on a mirror. The reflection is still there. It's just not visible until you wipe it clean. And fear is just a storyteller that writes fiction in our heads and convinces it's fact. Distraction, too, is clever. It doesn't always look harmful. Sometimes it looks like productivity, like busy schedules, or endless scrolling. But the more we stay distracted, the less we hear our own soul speak. To reconnect with that hidden version of you, start by pausing, reflecting, asking yourself, who am I beneath the noise? Because when you start dusting off those layers, layer by layer, thought by thought, you don't just discover your best self, you remember it. And that memory, that reconnection with who you truly are, is more powerful than any motivation because it's not borrowed from outside, it's awakened from within. Becoming your best self doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means becoming more of who you truly are. In a world obsessed with image, achievement, and constant comparison, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that being our best self means transforming into someone entirely different. Someone louder, richer, more confident, more successful, or more liked by others. We start to believe that we must add things. More status, more possessions, more recognition to be worthy. But the truth is, your best self is not something external you have to chase or copy. It's something internal you have to uncover. The process of becoming your best self is not about imitation. It's about integration. It's not about looking outside and saying, I want to be like them, but looking inside and asking, what have I forgotten about myself that is still there? Your true self was never missing. It was just overshadowed by what the world told you to be. The pressure to conform, to succeed by others' definitions, to fit in with trends, to please everyone, these become walls that hide your true nature. What if instead of changing into someone else, you allowed yourself to become more of who you are? More kind if kindness lives in you. More brave if bravery whispers inside. More focused if you've been called to serve a purpose bigger than yourself. Your best self isn't loud or flamboyant unless that's who you are at your core. It may be gentle. It may be steady. It may be calm in the storm. And that is more than enough. Imagine a tree trying to be a river or a river trying to be the sun. The tree is beautiful not because it becomes something else, but because it fully becomes a tree. Deep roots, tall branches, and unshakable stillness. You are no different when you stop pretending to be who you're not and start nurturing who you already are, you begin to grow in the most honest, powerful, and sustainable way. This is not about creating a version of you that pleases the crowd. It's about becoming someone who feels at peace in silence, who doesn't need approval to feel alive and who can look in the mirror and recognize their own eyes. Not because of what they've gained, but because of what they've embraced. Your best self isn't distant. It's just waiting for permission to be real. The noise of the world can make us forget our inner voice, but silence is where our best self whispers. Every day, from the moment we wake up, we are bombarded by noise. Notifications buzzing, headlines shouting, social media feeding us endless opinions, judgments, and distractions. Everyone is saying something about how to live, what success looks like, who we should be, and what we should want. It becomes overwhelming. And in this constant chaos, something precious begins to fade our connection with ourselves. We start to confuse the voice of the crowd with the voice of clarity. We begin to listen more to the outer world than to our inner world. We measure our worth by what others applaud. We shape our dreams based on what others celebrate. and we pursue goals that may not even belong to us. Slowly, without realizing it, we lose touch with our own intuition. The voice that once knew who we were and what we truly needed. But that voice, it never leaves. It only goes quiet, waiting patiently beneath the surface noise. It waits for us to pause, to disconnect, to sit still. Because in silence, something powerful happens. We begin to hear again, not with our ears, but with our awareness, with our heart, with our soul in the. Silence doesn't mean the absence of sound. It means the presence of space. Space for reflection, for breathing, for realignment. To be in the, it's in silence that your best self begins to whisper truths that the world can't offer. It reminds you of your purpose. It brings clarity to confusion. It tells you when to keep going and when to let go. But most importantly, it helps you remember who you are when everything else tries to make you forget. Think about the ocean. On the surface, there might be waves, storms, and turbulence. But deep beneath, there is calm, stillness, peace. Your mind is the same. The noise on the surface can be loud, but within you is a space that is untouched by the storm. A space where your best self lives. Not shouting, not demanding attention, but gently guiding you home in the. The more you give yourself permission to be silent, the more you hear that inner guidance. And when you start listening to that voice, not the voice of fear, not the voice of ego, not the voice of the crowd, but the quiet, wise, in the enduring voice within you, begin to step into your truth, into your power, into your best self. A growth is uncomfortable because comfort never produced transformation. We all admire growth. We talk about wanting to become better, to evolve, to reach our highest potential. But when growth actually arrives, it often comes disguised as discomfort, inconvenience, or even pain. It rarely looks the way we expect. Because growth doesn't happen while everything stays easy. It happens when we are stretched, challenged, and pushed beyond what we thought we could handle. Just think about it. A seed must break open before it becomes a tree. A caterpillar must dissolve in a cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. A muscle must be torn before it grows stronger. And the same is true for us in the. Every breakthrough in life is born through discomfort. But our natural instinct is to avoid discomfort, to run from it, to label it as something negative. We seek the soft pillow of routine, the safe blanket of familiarity, the predictable rhythm of habits that don't disturb us. But nothing changes in comfort. Comfort is like a cozy prison. It feels safe, but it slowly stops you from expanding. And when we live too long in comfort, we forget what we're capable of. We settle for less. Not because we aren't worthy of more, but because we've grown allergic to discomfort. Yet, if you look back, you'll realize your greatest lessons, your deepest wisdom, and your strongest qualities came from the seasons that tested you the most. That heartbreak that taught you resilience. That failure that taught you humility. That fear you overcame that unlocked your confidence. None of it came from an easy path. It came from walking through fire and not being burned, but being refined. Growth is not supposed to feel like a spa treatment. It feels more like climbing a mountain with tired legs and heavy lungs. But every step upward expands your view. Ours to be in the. Every step reveals a little more of the strength that was already inside you. And that transformation, the internal shift from who you were to who you're becoming, can only happen if you allow discomfort to be your teacher in the, not your enemy. When you understand this, you stop resisting the challenges and start respecting them. You stop wishing for an easier life and start developing a stronger self. Because the path to your best self won't be lined with pillows. It will be paved with discomfort, but also with purpose, clarity, and deep personal power. And the beautiful irony, the more you grow, the more comfortable you become with discomfort. It no longer scares you. It sharpens you. It no longer holds you back. It carries you forward, ours to be in the, because you finally realize comfort may feel good, but growth EUA does good. And your best self doesn't live in comfort. It's forged in discomfort, sculpted by effort, and revealed through courage. We often upgrade everything around us. Gadgets, goals, status. But rarely do we upgrade our inner software, our thoughts, our values, our focus. In today's world, progress is measured by what's visible. A new phone, a new car, a promotion, a bigger house, better clothes, more followers. We're constantly chasing external upgrades, refinements that the world applauds. Every few months, there's a new model of something. We spend hours researching specs, checking reviews, comparing features, all to ensure we don't fall behind. But when was the last time we paused and asked, when did I last upgrade myself? We upgrade the hardware of our lives, but neglect the software of our mind. We forget that our inner operating system, our thoughts, our beliefs, our perspectives, is what truly determines the quality of our experience in the. Just like an outdated app crashes, a stale mindset can break our growth. We face new challenges with old patterns. We try to solve tomorrow's problems with yesterday's tools. And we wonder why we feel stuck, anxious, or unfulfilled. Think about it, Turk. If your phone is slow or glitchy, the first suggestion is often to update it. But what if your life feels slow or glitchy? What if your patience lags, your joy buffers, or your peace crashes under pressure? That's a sign. It's time for an internal update. Upgrading your thoughts means asking, are these beliefs still serving me? Maybe you've been carrying fear passed down from your environment. Maybe you've been stuck in a mindset of lack, even when abundance is around you. Maybe you've held on to a story that said you're not enough, and that story has run your life for too long. Upgrading your values means asking, what matters to be now? Sometimes we cling to values that once served us, but no longer align with who we're becoming. Growth requires evaluating. Maybe you valued external validation, but now you seek inner peace. Maybe you once chased popularity, but now you crave purpose. That's growth. That's evolution. And upgrading your focus means learning to protect your attention. In a world that constantly demands it, attention has become your most precious currency. Are you investing it in things that nourish you? Or are you spending it on things that drain you? Every moment you spend on something unworthy is a moment stolen from your best self. The best part? Unlike external upgrades, inner upgrades don't cost money. They cost intention, reflection, awareness. And the return on this investment is priceless clarity, peace, maturity, and purpose. So the next time you upgrade your device or wardrobe, ask yourself, have I upgraded you, Mev? Because everything you attract, everything you experience, and everything you become flows from the quality of your internal world. When you upgrade within, life starts to reflect that change without. And your best self, it begins to emerge. Not because you added something, but because you updated what truly matters. Comparison is the thief of inner peace. Your best self doesn't compete. It aligns. From the earliest days of our lives, we are measured, compared by grades, by behavior, by achievements, by appearances. We are told who's ahead, who's behind, who's better, who's lacking. And slowly, without even realizing it, we internalize a game we never agreed to play, a race we never intended to run. This race is powered by comparison. We scroll through carefully curated images of other people's lives, achievements, and milestones. We start to wonder, am I doing enough? Why am I not there yet? What's wrong with me? But what we forget is that most of what we compare ourselves to isn't even real. It's a highlight reel, not the whole story. And even when it is real, it's not ours to measure against. It's someone else's journey, shaped by different routes, different seasons, different timing. Comparison creates noise in our soul. It makes us blind to our blessings, deaf to our intuition, and numb to our progress. We overlook the quiet in the beautiful ways we are growing just because someone else is growing differently or faster. We trade our joy for jealousy, our focus for frustration, our peace for pressure. But your best self was never designed to be in competition. It was designed for alignment. Alignment with your values, your purpose, your timing. The oak tree does not envy the bamboo. The river does not compete with the sky. They exist in harmony, each fulfilling their nature, each growing in its own rhythm. And so must you. When you stop comparing, something amazing happens. You begin to see yourself. You start appreciating the little victories, the internal shifts, the healing, the quiet strength that others may not see, but you feel. You stop measuring your life by others' metrics and start creating your own. You realize that success is not a universal formula. It's deeply personal. And that's the power of alignment. When you're aligned with who you truly are you don't need applause to feel valuable. You don't need to outshine anyone to feel worthy Your joy isn't dependent on someone else's journey. It comes from knowing deep within that you are moving in the direction of truth, even if no one else notices. So choose alignment over achievement. Choose authenticity over approval Because the version of you that shines the brightest isn't the one who wins a race against others. It's the one who walks boldly in their own lane with peace, purpose, and presence. And in that space, your best self thrives, not by competing, but by becoming. Life is not waiting for you to be perfect. It's waiting for you to be present in the. So many of us postpone our happiness, our efforts, our dreams, waiting for the perfect moment. We convince ourselves that we'll start working on our goals once we feel more confident, speak up once we're more prepared, begin the journey once we figured it all out. We live in a state of delay, endlessly rehearsing life in our heads while real life quietly slips by. In the perfection becomes the excuse we dress up in logic. I'm not ready yet. It's not the right time. What if I fail? These thoughts give us comfort because they sound responsible. But the truth is, perfection isn't noble. It's paralyzing. And even worse, it's an illusion. Because no matter how much you prepare, there will always be something imperfect. Something unpredictable, something uncertain. Meanwhile, life isn't waiting. It's moving. Time doesn't pause while we gather courage. Opportunities don't stand still while we build flawless plans. Life is unfolding, messy, raw, unfiltered. And it invites us to step into it as we are, not as we wish we were. The presence is powerful because it brings to what's real. When you're present in you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to have mastered everything. You simply need to show up fully, honestly, and with intention. Presence allows you to engage with what's in front of you instead of being lost in the fear of what might come next or the regret of what came before. Think about how many precious moments we miss because we're too distracted, too self-critical, or too busy planning a future version of ourselves. We walk through life like ghosts, physically here, but mentally somewhere else. And yet, some of the most life-changing experiences come not when everything is perfect, but when we are fully awake in the moment. It's in presence that creativity flows. It's in presence that love deepens. It's in presence that healing begins. And it's in presence that your best self quietly emerges. Not because the circumstances were ideal, but because you were finally there, open, aware, and connected. The truth is, your best self doesn't arrive on some distant, perfected day. It shows up when you do, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. When you stop obsessing over how life should be and start embracing it as it is, you unlock a deeper kind of growth, a kind that perfection could never offer. So stop waiting to become flawless before you take the next step. Life isn't asking for perfection. It's asking for your attention, your sincerity, your presence. And when you give that, even in small doses, life responds, not with perfection, but with transformation. Discipline and reflection are not punishments. They are forms of self-respect. In today's fast-moving, pleasure-seeking world, discipline is often misunderstood. It's seen as restriction, rigidity, or a lack of freedom. Reflection, too, is mistaken for overthinking or a waste of time. But both are deeply misunderstood. They are not chains, they are choices. Not cages, but keys. When rightly embraced, they become expressions of deep inner care, acts of love toward yourself. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself into a mold or becoming a robot. It's about setting intentional boundaries to protect what matters most. It's about telling yourself, I respect my time, my energy, and my future too much to waste them on short-term temptations or meaningless distractions. You don't wake up early or stick to a routine because life demands it. You do it because your goals deserve it. You do it because the version of you you're becoming is worth the effort and reflection, pausing to think, journal, observe your actions. It isn't passive. It's one of the most active and courageous things you can do. In a world that pushes you to keep going, to keep producing, reflection asks you to slow down, to ask questions like, why did I react that way? What lesson was hidden in that setback? Am I living according to my values? Or have I drifted? These are not easy questions, but they are the right ones. Without asking them, we repeat patterns. We move but don't grow. We succeed but don't understand ourselves. When you combine discipline with reflection, something beautiful happens. You not only build habits, you build awareness. You don't just take action, you take aligned action. You begin to live more deliberately, less reactively. You move from surviving to sculpting, from floating to flying. Think of a sculptor working on a masterpiece. Every strike of the chisel is discipline. Showing up, shaping, removing what doesn't belong, but stepping back to observe the form. That's reflection. Without that balance, the artist either hacks blindly or stares endlessly. The same is true for you. Without discipline, growth is a wish. Without reflection, it's directionless. Many people think self-love means being soft with yourself all the time. But real self-love is often firm. It tells you what you need to hear, not just what you want to hear. It encourages rest, yes, but also responsibility. It reminds you that you were not meant for mediocrity. And to rise, you must rise on purpose. So no, discipline and reflection are not punishments. They're not about making your life smaller. They're about giving it shape, purpose, and power. They are reminders that your life matters enough to live it with care, that your time is too valuable to waste, that your journey is too sacred to walk blindly. And every time you sit in silence to reflect or push through resistance with discipline, you are telling the world and yourself, I am worth the effort. Your best self doesn't shout. It waits patiently behind every good decision, every kind act, every silent moment of awareness. In a world where noise often equals relevance, it's easy to think that becoming your best self means becoming louder, more visible, constantly achieving, constantly winning. But that's the illusion. True growth, true strength, true wisdom, they rarely make a scene. They don't need to. Because real transformation isn't showy, it's subtle. It unfolds quietly, often unnoticed by the outside world, but deeply felt within. Your best self is not the one that demands applause or recognition. It doesn't need to announce its arrival. Instead, it emerges gently like the morning sun, soft at first, then gradually illuminating everything it touches. It doesn't arrive all at once with a grand event or achievement. It grows in the background, through the decisions you make when no one is watching, through the thoughts you choose to entertain, through the way you treat others when you have nothing to gain. Every time you choose patience over anger, your best self comes forward. Every time you forgive when you could blame, help when you could ignore, listen when you could interrupt, your best self takes a breath. These moments may seem small, even invisible, but they are the quiet building blocks of greatness. They are the unseen roots that nourish the tree of your character. The problem is, we often ignore these moments because they don't feel significant We're conditioned to believe that transformation only counts if it's dramatic. Quitting everything and starting over. Reaching a huge milestone, getting massive praise. But most real progress is far less glamorous. It's in the 1,000 tiny choices you make every day. It's in self-control, in delayed gratification, in honesty, in consistency. Your best self isn't just a future destination. It's a current decision, a way of being, a set of habits and values that, when repeated, slowly carve out the highest version of you. And this version isn't flashy. It's not chasing validation. It's rooted, grounded, steady. It walks with humility. It speaks with compassion. It acts with purpose. And even when no one else sees it, even when there's no applause, it keeps showing up. That's the beauty of your best self. It's faithful. It's not looking for approval. It's waiting for alignment. It wants you to recognize it, to choose it, to honor it. Not with grand gestures, but with truth and integrity. So if you're not hearing loud results yet, don't assume nothing's working. Listen more closely. Underneath your small wins and silent struggles, your best self is quietly growing, patiently unfolding, waiting to meet you. Not in the spotlight, but in the stillness of your next wise choice. If you start today, even imperfectly, you'll meet a version of yourself in the future who will thank you for not giving up. Too often, we delay taking action because we're waiting for the right mood, the right timing, or the right resources. We tell ourselves, oh, I'll start when I'm ready. But readiness is not a moment, it's a mindset. The truth is in thee. No one ever truly feels ready to change their life. We become ready by a beginning, not by waiting. The smallest step in the right direction taken today matters more than the perfect plan that never leaves your imagination. Think of the version of you 1 year from now. That person exists, not in fantasy, but in potential. They are shaped not by what you hope for, but by what you eldow. Every effort you make today, no matter how clumsy, every habit you stick to, Even when motivation fades, every time you rise after failing, those moments are bricks, and brick by brick, you build a version of yourself you haven't met yet. That future version of you won't care that you weren't perfect when you started. They won't remember the awkwardness, the insecurity, or the mistakes They'll be too grateful you are kept going. They'll be living the rewards of your consistency, your courage, your quiet determination to show up even when it was easier not to. Because progress doesn't demand perfection, it demands persistence. But here's the catch: the longer you wait, the farther that version of you drifts. Not because they're running away, but because you're standing still. Time doesn't pause. Opportunities don't wait. Life continues to move forward, whether you decide to or not. The question is, will you move with it? Starting today, even in a small, almost invisible way, sends a signal to your mind to, I'm serious about my growth. It's not about overhauling your life overnight. It's about honoring your potential by showing up each today in whatever way you can. Even 5 minutes of clarity, one kind gesture, one healthier decision, that's progress, and progress compounds. Imagine waking up one day and realizing you're living in the answer to the prayer you whispered in your hardest moment. Imagine looking in the mirror and recognizing someone stronger, calmer, wiser, someone who didn't let fear win. That person is not a stranger. That's a you on the other side of your consistency. So don't underestimate the power of starting small. Don't wait for the perfect version of yourself to begin, because that version only exists if this version of you dares to act. The you of tomorrow is shaped by the choices you make every today. And someday, not too far from now, you'll look back and smile. Not because the journey was easy, but because you had the courage to start imperfectly and not give up.